Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Ian Flint. He is a world-renowned graphene processing expert, and he is management at Elcora Resources. How are you today?
I'm very good. Thank you very much, Tracy.
Well, I'm delighted to see you again because I have so many questions about graphene. But first of all, let's talk about the type of competitive graphite towards becoming graphene, and Sri Lankan graphite is advantageous, yes?
That's correct. Coming out of the ground is 93% or greater, which means the processing is very easy of it, and it also has very ordered crystals, which means that we can make nice flat graphite out of it.
Okay, so what we have is this advantageous graphite, and what was the catalyst for Elcora getting into the graphene technology industry?
It's more the other way around. The intent has always been to get into the graphene technology, and we searched for the best graphite in order to do that.
And of course, it's also my understanding that one of your competitive advantages is your processing technique.
We spent years developing the processes to separate the graphite, purify the graphite, while keeping the crystals in good shape.
Now, you were explaining to me earlier about graphite and some of the challenges in processing and keeping the crystals flat.
Correct.
Can you talk me through that?
Well, when you're making graphene, the idea is to peel off one layer of the graphite. Of course, you peel them off many of it at the same time, but in order to do that, you need a nice flat crystal, because if you bend or fold it, it means they don't come off cleanly. So that if you have a bent or folded crystal, your recovery or your conversion of the graphite to graphene can be very low, whereas if it is flat, you can convert a lot more to graphene.
So what you're saying then is the extraction of the graphite is also very important.
Yes.
For the graphene processing.
You need a vertically integrated situation where you have control right from the mine in order to preserve that crystal shape.
So when you're extracting the graphite, is there a way that you can describe to our audience that you do it to keep these crystals flat? I find this fascinating.
Well, first of all, as I said, we start off with Sri Lankan graphite, which is 90% of the problem or the solution, because you're starting off at a very high grade. We're starting off at a grade that most people would dream of on their final product, which makes it simple. Then you have to make sure that when you do your crushing and grinding, you don't mangle the crystals.
All right, so we've got to have non-mangled crystals as we go into the graphene processing. Now this is where it gets even more interesting. You have a competitive graphene processing technique. Can you talk to us a little bit about this?
We don't really have a competitive processing technique for graphene. What we're doing is we are developing or commercializing the processes that are already out there to client-specific needs. But our secret is not the processing into the graphene, it is bringing the graphite to that table. In other words, if we've got a better graphite, it means we can convert more to graphene, which means our costs are lower.
Well, of course, that's interesting. And then obviously the issue next is in your processing. It's got to be scalable, because that's a big issue in the graphene sector right now. Not only the cost, of course, but the scalability for commercialization. Talk to me a little bit about this.
Well, that's very true, but most of the technology used to make the graphene is entirely scalable. It's just a question of applying equipment development more than anything else. The equipment does not currently exist to do it, but that doesn't mean it can't.
Okay, does Elcora have the equipment to do this?
We have the knowledge to do it, which is what we're doing right now. We will have the equipment.
Do you believe that you not only have the equipment, but the ability to scale this and be commercially competitive?
I believe we do. It seems yet to be proven, but our targets are to produce not grams of graphene, but kilograms and eventually even tons of the material.
All right, so there's a lot of misconceptions out there about graphene right now. We have a lot of companies saying that they're producing graphene. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? There's a number of different types of graphene, for instance. Would you like to just take a second and explain to us what they're talking about?
Well, there's two basic forms of creating graphene. One is the bottom-up approach, and the other is the top-down approach. The bottom-up approach, you're taking molecules of carbon and building it into graphene. In the top-down, you're taking graphite and taking sheets of graphene off. Those are the two major ways of doing it. One gives you extremely pure crystals, but is very expensive, which is the bottom-up approach. In the top-down approach, yes, you can get very pure crystals, but you're depending on your source of graphite to do it.
Well, this is very exciting news, and I just want to go back to the fact that Elcora was actually created initially to be a graphene producing company. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, so you're finally letting all your shareholders know about this big secret and vision. What should we expect next from Elcora, say, over the next 6 months?
The next 6 months, we're going to try to get a processing plant up for graphite. In terms of the Sri Lankan situation, that would be the same as a pilot plant for anybody else, because the grade is so high going in. And at that point, we will also be in the process of designing our graphene facilities.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.